So, Willie, a lot of conversation about the identity graph, seeking an identity to be effective in advertising. And I wanted to ask you, kind of where that's going, what the future is. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of changes in terms of what has previously comprised the identity graph. Where are we heading into 2021, and what does that landscape look like?
Yeah. So, and as we head into 2021, the key challenges, the key opportunities, I'll say, for marketers is and publishers is that we want to solidify and shore up our first party data foundation. That'll mean a number of different things, depending on where your first party data, like the hygiene of it is right now in today's world. But at the core, that will be the foundation of any consumer interaction in an advertising context. So first and foremost, data preparedness is going to be at the forefront of the initiatives that a lot of marketers and publishers are navigating in the next years in change. So what you're gonna see in the marketplace with the publisher and advertiser ecosystem is a deep interrogation of ways in which to translate that first party data into an addressable identifier in the open marketplace. That could look a few different ways. I think there will be deterministic device graphs that still exist and will continue to thrive as they're rooted in a strong first party data foundation and backbone. But you'll also see a lot of direct engagements with publishers and supply side partners, right? So being able to go directly to your publisher partners that you've worked with in the past, working in a way to create a safe haven or intermediate ecosystem through which you can do matching with your first party data against their first party data. That would then create your addressable list, right? So your list of IDs against which you'll buy in the marketplace. But that is a paradigm shift from how we operate today, because a lot of those mechanisms are managed on our behalf. So you're going to see an increased ownership at the end of the day with the advertisers managing their first party data and creating the audiences and creating the various categorizations and taxonomies necessary to prioritize who and how they engage who they engage and how they engage them.
So, Willie, how does this new world of personalization to this our shift to a people-based ecosystem that we've been seeing, how does consent and privacy work into that, and how is that changing?
Yeah, I think at the core of this people-based ecosystem is that you also see the necessity to broker a true value exchange. Today you can buy data off the shelf from a myriad of uh, partners and use that as you choose within the activation ecosystem. However, now as the cookies start to deprecate, you're going to have to articulate to the consumer why that data that you seek access to is of value to you and of value to the experience in which they interact with you. So a lot of the conversations we're having with our clients and in the marketplace as a whole is how do you identify the key elements that help to drive a more relevant experience for consumers, and then how do you communicate that to the consumer to ensure that they consent to sharing that with you to enable that experience.
Willie, I wanted to ask about interoperability. The devices, data sets are becoming so vast. I know in your business, I'm sure it's a question that's asked of clients. What are your thoughts about interoperability between systems, data, kind of where fragmentation is now and where we should be heading?
Yeah, I think the key in turn to get to a place of interoperability, like, is really in the service of being as streamlined and as transparent as possible. So, we're going to have to align on the common identifiers that through which we can broker interactions with consumers, and make sure that identifier, those sets of identifiers, are managed in a compliant and safe, in a privacy safe manner. You'll see a lot of like like these emerging technologies and or evolutions of existing technologies that are really designed to be those interface layers that sit between the publisher and or advertiser in the broader marketplace. And that will be the mechanism by which a lot of those translations will happen, and a lot of the information will flow from one ecosystem to another to enable person-based marketing.
So, Willie, let me ask you this. If I was a client and I came to you and I said, what's really exciting from a digital perspective next year? What big changes? What are you excited about, either from a platform perspective or a device perspective? What do you think is cool that, you're kind of looking forward to embracing or seeing its development?
I guess at its core, the evolution of the what we know today as the identity graph is going to be very exciting to see evolve in 2021 and beyond. Because as we discussed, with the third party cookie has and device IDs are the two of the main identifiers that have lived in the context of a device graph. But as the marketplace has articulated, and what we see in many times over, is that the cookie is an imperfect addressable identifier, and it's been that way for a long time. I mean, this is not. I would say that in many ways, this is a way to reimagine how we go to the market and deliver messaging to consumers under the guise of people-based marketing, because the identifiers that we're left with are definitely much stronger and more persistent than anything that we've seen with a third-party cookie. So when we think about the role that the device graph plays now, is that data should be managed in a very secure manner, so that we are not experiencing any data leakage or any exposure risk in terms of how consumer addressable identifiers are being leveraged. So what the innovation in the identity graph space will be largely around security and connectivity against those types of identifiers at the foundation. And that's no small task. That is very much a substantial undertaking for all of the partners that currently play in this space. But I feel that we are well suited as an industry to navigate and really address this head on, in order to derive the best outcomes for the marketers and the consumer.